Some interesting moments have occurred on CNN, is I guess the point I'm trying to make here. And this was one of them. This was David Urban during a panel after the first night.
Last night was, like as John said, I'm clearly not the audience. My takeaway was several things, right? One, this was a very base. One, the Democrats better get their act together because it was terribly orchestrated, put together. It took too long. Joe Biden went way into the night. I know this gets consumed differently. Not most Americans aren't staying up to watch this. They're going to watch it in snips and clips. But it was really just poorly produced, and I think that was a missed opportunity in a lot of places because sweet baby James got bumped from the ticket last night, right? You had James Taylor in here practicing. I think that there wasn't a lot of outreach to the Tim Walz part of the party. If you're a white working class guy in Erie County, Pennsylvania, nothing spoke to you last night. They weren't going after those voters, the Tim Walz voters last night. It was geared towards, specific, very heavy on abortion, right? Lots of women of color and women. So you're right. My demographic was not the target last night. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And look, Daniel Dale wasn't around last night. So, I think in terms of fact checking, just a couple quick fact checks here to provide Daniel Dale.
He's got his notebook.
The convention didn't run long, as the convention planner said, because of applause. Okay? This is factually not correct. It didn't run long because of applause. It ran long because of poor planning. Project 2025 is not the blueprint for the Trump campaign. When the state senator stood up there and said that, I'm like, are you kidding me? President Trump has stood on numerous platforms and said, I disavow this. It's at NPR. It's on this network.
But we got to fact check. The architect of that was on camera saying he was totally for it. And
the architect can say whatever he wants, but when the candidate stands up there, I think it's our obligation to say the Trump campaign and the candidate has disavowed this. The third thing is that, Trump has said, repeatedly, I will not sign a federal ban on abortion. I will not sign it if it comes to me. I won't sign it. And Trump has always been for exceptions for life of the mother, rape, incest, the normal kind of things that every person in the abortion world has ever been for. And yet that was kind of implied. Joe Biden finally topped it all off with the lie of lies about Charlottesville that Snopes and everybody else has kind of said this isn't true. So those kind of things that kind of marred from a factual perspective. I think those are kind of should have been fact-checked along the way because they just weren't true, and it kind of devolved. I think, if those things, the big things aren't true, what other things aren't true that are being said? So again, I'm not the audience. It was a red meat for the Democratic base.
Blue meat.
Excuse me. Correct. Yeah, red meat for the blue base, right?
Okay, so David Urban, obviously, their Republican commentator on the panel that will come in frequently. But I like what he said. Because I think that most of the time you hear, all of what you've heard at this DNC convention so far, which is not atypical for politicians and political events, and certainly not for campaigns, but all you've heard is a bunch of hogwash and lies. That all of a sudden the Democrats are the party of freedom and growth and the working people, all these things, right? Which is just not true. So I like that. You've had some of their anchors, I'm not talking about Urban, but some of their anchors push back on some of these ideas. And then that they allow conversations like this. Don't get me wrong, there was pushback and there was more pushback. But I like that this happens because for both sides, but particularly the left, they hear what CNN or MSNBC has to say and they just take it, right? Biden's speech was great. Camp's speech was great. Pelosi's amazing. The Democrats are the party that loves America. They're not trying to change it. It's the Republicans. They whatever. Fill in the blank with whatever nonsense you want to put there, and they just take that and then hit their remote control because in Democrat families the woman carries it, so she turns it off, and they go on with their day and assume that was all the truth.
The first time I've heard you call it the remote control, usually call it the clicker.
Yeah, I for some reason I couldn't. It was eluding me, the term. But they move on. I think it's great to hear that. I think it's great to hear that last point in particular, that Charlottesville has been debunked. It's just simply not true what they have said. And even though Joe Biden keeps repeating it and lots of the media keeps repeating it, it's not true. It's a completely and totally inaccurate description of what was said and what was intended that day. And I think it's good also to call them out and be like, this, even though there was energy in there, this event has been run poorly in a lot of regards. Most people won't see it that way because they just see the theatrics of it. Anyways, I think it's good. My point is, I think it's good that their viewership, as low as it is compared to where it used to be, is hearing some alternative points.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest.
To get your free definitive gold guide and get started learning more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement from uncertain times, visit treasureandtrust.com now. Fill out the basic contact form and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's treasureandtrust.com or call 855-625-7760.